Guardians, what's going on? It's Tic Tac here, and today we're going to be looking at another kind of niche video of a build that I've been playing a lot of and really enjoying. In fact, I saw Aztec Cross bring it to his day one contest mode raid, and it's a very similar build to what I planned on bringing to you guys. So I guess that's a stamp of approval. This build, the original crowd control king from Beyond Light, Icy Boy, Stasis Goblin, the Shadebinder Warlock, is still insane. The double cold snap grenade build is nuts, and if you think it got worse in Lightfall, you are very mistaken. This build absolutely slaps all content that I have brought it into. Lightfalls, raids, everything. It's not a Lightfall, it's a Nightfall. See, this is more difficult than you think, but we're going to go into this build, talk about exactly why it works, what you can take out of it from Beyond Light that we no longer need, and show you some gameplay about how much it slaps in content. Do you want to lock down entire ruins without being a Strand Titan, or maybe you don't have a Strand Titan? Well, I have the build for you, and let's jump into it. This is the Ice Binder, Shadebinder? It's something like that. Build for Warlock. Let's go check it out. I don't like this grenade launcher, man.
Wait, which one?
I don't know. It's called the
Mayframe?
No, the harsh language.
Yeah, it's a Mayframe.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Oh, that's why I don't like it.
Oh my god, Dick.
If you're watching this video, maybe you fit into this category. I don't really enjoy following the meta. I enjoy getting into a game and figuring out a build that usually is slightly subpar to whatever the meta may be. Yes, I'm aware of necrotic grips, incandescent, volt shot, all of that stuff that absolutely destroys entire rooms of enemies. And yeah, that's awesome. That's fun. But I'm the type of player, and hopefully you are too, that chose the Titan helmet at the end of the Lightfall campaign. PSA, it's not very good, but that's another video entirely. I'm also the type of player, you may not know, that I love bows in Destiny. There are many memes of me within our little Destiny community of Tic Tac using bows. So when I saw that this seasonal weapon was a bow, I knew that I was going to enjoy it. Then I saw that it was a stasis bow, and that led me on to the path that you see in front of you today. This build, I cannot tell you how strong it actually is for any content that I've brought it to. And I brought it to the Nightfall, and it was part of my day one raid gear 2 until we needed wells for the 3rd and 4th encounter that I never beat. But again, that's another story. So what makes this build different than it was previously? Well, let's jump in to the fragments and aspects and explain the build before we get into the gear. When Beyond Light dropped, you needed, I mean absolutely needed, a certain aspect in your build, and if you were running Warlock Stasis, and that is Glacial Harvest, because we relied so heavily on wells, and basically Stasis shards acted as wells and could even trigger wells or count as wells back in the day. Glacial Harvest was 100% needed within a Stasis build for Warlock to constantly refresh your grenade energy, melee energy, gain supercharge, all of that stuff. All of these fragments that you can have in here needed those shards to basically gain their benefit. However, since Lightfall has come out, wells are gone. And that kind of means that shards are gone, because you don't need to pick them up anymore, because you don't need the energy that they used to provide to refresh your kit nearly as often. In fact, ever. So much so that you can completely take this out of your build now. You can take it out of your build and not use it and still have constant grenade energy with using Osmiomancy, but we'll get into the armor and mods in a little bit. Since this is gone, this frees up an entire slot. you can choose either, you can even hold on to this if you want to, but you don't need to. In this video, I was personally using Frost Pulse. Again, not a meta thing. I just wanted to check it out, and it works really well. It was decent in PvP. It kept me alive countless times in PvE, because freezing an entire pack of enemies with just a push of a button is kind of wild. You can, if you would like to, put in Bleak Watcher. It's still insanely strong. However, it messes up the cooldown rotation with your grenades. I promise you, if you're doing any easy to mid-tier content, you will have infinite, I-N-F-I-N-I-T-E, infinite grenades the entire time you're using this build. As long as one of your grenades bounces to another target, boom, you basically have another grenade charge. Fantastic build. And we're going to talk about two different fragments here, because you might want to put one in if you're doing harder difficulty. So me and my friend Blue, who's in a lot of the footage, we were messing around with the exact same build, and we were messing around with the fragments as well to figure out exactly what we had. There will be a build screen at the end of this video to just have a reference guide as well. So for the fragments, we were experimenting a bunch. What we ended up with here is these four, with a change in one or two of them if you want to try. All of these fragment choices are fantastic. You cannot go wrong. And since all of this stuff is a bit older, 1 or 2 years, I will just be going over them quite quickly. We have Whispers of Shard. Shattering a stasis crystal temporarily boosts your grenade recharge rate. Shattering additional stasis crystals increases the duration of this benefit. We're using this because of our bow. Our bow makes crystal shards, and we can shatter them quite easily. This one we're going to talk about, and we're going to swap it for another one just for a different version of this build 2 different times. Increase the damage and size of burst stasis of your crystals with fissures. Then we have Refraction. Defeating slow to frozen targets grants you class ability energy. And we have Kickstart on our bond, which then feeds into our grenade energy. And then you gain grenade energy each time you take damage from targets. So all of this cycles into just having infinite grenades that you can just throw at groups and groups and bosses and everything. What we did swap for harder content is we took out either Torment or Shards, and we put on this one. While you are near frozen targets or friendly stasis crystal, you take reduced damage from targets. This we put on when we were doing the Nightfall. It does help with your survivability, especially if you put on a mod on your armor. This really does make it a lot easier to survive. And then the last one I want to talk about is Whisper of Rending, I believe it's called, which is this one. Primary ammo weapons do increased damage to stasis crystals and frozen targets. Since our bow actually makes stasis crystals, then we can shoot said stasis crystals with our bow, creating more stasis crystals. It's insane. The chain of explosions that you can get with Whispers of Rending, plus on top of that, from what I've seen, since there is a 40% increase in damage from exotic primaries, that coupled with this gives you a 100% damage increase. 100% damage increase to shooting frozen targets with the bow that we're using, the seasonal bow. So take that for what you will. 100% damage increase even for a second or two is kind of nuts. My bow is hitting for, I believe, 42,000 damage a shot. I'm not sure where it is in the video, but you will see it. 42k a shot. That is a crappy rocket launcher damage with a bow. Not too bad. So that is the Shadebinder aspects and fragments. That is what we're running. Those 5 fragments. Feel free to experiment with any one you want. Again, with the aspects, you don't need to use Glacial Harvest anymore. So you can take that out of your build, and you can use Bleak Watcher or Frost Pulse and experiment, figure out which one you like best. Last but not least, to wrap this video up, let's just talk about the couple of pieces of gear and mods that you definitely want in your build. Number 1, we are using the Verglas Curve. Terrible goddamn name for a bow, but it is what it is. I have no control over that. I spent a lot of time getting this damn catalyst done, and to be honest, it's kind of mid-tier. The extra draw time is barely noticeable, but I will be honest, it does make the quality of life of the bow much better. It is not needed to run this build. It's just something that is an added bonus when you do it. You will be constantly freezing targets anyway, so this will always be up. But once you use it for a little bit and you're used to it, using it using the catalyst, when you don't have it anymore, it does feel kind of weird if you're in like you get into a weird cycle where you died and you lost your grenade charges and you're just shooting everything with a bow without the catalyst. It does feel a little odd, but this is a decent catalyst, nothing to write home about. However, the bow is absolutely fucking wild. This bow is insane. The amount of crowd control this thing provides is nuts. What this bow does is when you ADS and shoot, you end up getting a charge. You can have up to 5 charges. When you don't ADS and take a shot, as long as you killed 5 enemies before, you will shoot 5 frozen arrows that on impact create a stasis crystal. Now, here's the cool thing. The shattering of that can shatter all 5 crystals depending on how far they are, making it multiplicative damage across the board and just destroying rooms of enemies that are literally frozen in place. Rooms and rooms of enemies cannot move. The cool thing about it, and this is a tip if you do enjoy using bows or this bow in particular, once you kill 5 targets and you shoot your frozen crystal thing, if you do not ADS and shoot the crystal with a non-ADS bow shot and that crystal explodes and kills up to 5 enemies, your next non-ADS bow pull will have frozen arrows on it as well. So technically, you could link 5, 10, 15 stasis crystals in literally less than 2 seconds. Try it out. I promise it works. It is a ton of fun to use and to lock down an entire room with ice. It's just a blast. The second thing we have to talk about is the Osmiomancy gloves, probably one of the best exotics that came out of the Witch Queen, especially for Stasis Warlock. These gloves basically are, it's just insane. You guys know what they do. Your cold snap grenades have an additional charge and recharge faster on impact and have increased secure travel distance. All of that is all you want in your grenades for cold snap. But like I said, you don't even need to use the turrets anymore, which allows this to constantly cycle and just gain charges so fast. And it's actually kind of nuts. I feel like when I do lose a charge, it's because of a bug and not because I've actually lost the charge. Then a few things just to talk about what mods you may want to bring. Ashes to Assets on our helmet is really, really strong. On here, you want Grenade Kickstart. Here's a small thing I do want to bring up. This kinetic loader is not needed. I wouldn't put it on if you have not finished the catalyst. If you haven't finished the catalyst on your bow, just put another Grenade Kickstart here and do something like this. Your Grenade Final Blows, this actually isn't helpful either. We had Bolstering Detonation on here. Again, we were experimenting, so this would be the final build. Once you do finish the catalyst, the quality of life improves tenfold. If you're using a kinetic reloader or a stasis reloader, give it a shot, but you definitely want to run something like this while you are leveling this up or playing with this. This is definitely the go-to build. I wanted to mention that. Here, you just put on whatever you may need. Stasis Weapon Surge, double time, because it just stacks and adds a ton of damage to our bow because it's going to be the primary weapon we're using. And then lastly, here we have Utility Kickstart and Bomber and Bomber, just to keep cycling our abilities back into each other. And lastly, I was full-on memeing before with a Headstone Heavy LMG, but you don't need to use that. Use whatever secondary and heavy weapon you need for whatever content you may be doing. If you are an uncultured person and you don't like bows, then you can use the Aegir Scepter as well, or even the Cryostasia. Both of those work well in this build too. We all know how strong the Aegir Scepter is, so feel free to use either one of those exotics as well. The whole point though was to use the brand new exotic that we got through the season pass, which really does complement this build quite nicely, especially since we do have bow overload this season. I just wanted to mention that if you're not a bow person, feel free to use any of the other stasis modified weapons. But that is the build. Check it out. Double kickstart, kinetic reloader once you get the catalyst done. The bow, remember the tip of shooting the crystals with non-ADS arrows, create 5 more depending on how many of the crystals kill, up to 5 more frozen arrows. Try out the build, come back, go in the comments section, let me know what you guys think and just how powerful this build actually is. For anything from easy content to super hard content, you can literally lock down rooms for the entire time I really enjoy this build. I hope you guys do too. I will see you guys on the next one. Here is the guide, the little template that you guys can follow along and check out the build and all the mods that may be in it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want some more Destiny 2 content, let me know down in the comments below. I do have a very cool video in the works that I'm very excited to do. It's going to take a little while to make, but we're getting there. If you guys want to check me out at twitch.tv/roundedtictac, I would love to see you guys there. And as always, stay safe, Guardians. Tic Tac out.